Life in him learned its huge subconscient rear, the little fronts unlocked to the unseen vasts. Her gulfs stood nude, her far transcendences flamed in transparencies of crowded light.
So we see that life is now learning all of that is behind him, the subconscious rear, and uh, and these little fronts have unlocked to these unseen vasts. And her gulfs, even the gulfs, stood nude. Her far transcendences flamed in transparencies of crowded light. So now let's see what he's going to discover. What is he going to discover?
A giant order was discovered here, of which the tassel and extended fringe are the scant stuff of our material lives.
So it's a beautiful image that Sri Aurobindo has given us. By the way, I can hear all your words.
Okay.
So a giant order is discovered by Ashwapati, of which just the little tassel and the fringe are what we can see and understand.
Mhm. Mm.
But a scant stuff. Scant is barely sufficient, limited in size or quantity. Scant. Scant stuff of our material lives. Now we'll continue.
Okay. This overt universe whose figures hide the secrets merged in subconscient light wrote clear the letters of its glowing code, a map of subtle signs surpassing thought was hung upon a wall of inmost mind.
So, purely discussing what's happening to Ashwapati.
Mhm.
All of these secrets that have now merged in superconscious life wrote these clear letters of this glowing code, this map of subtle signs that even surpass thought, was hung upon a wall of inmost mind. And he's going to continue now quite a lot.
Okay. Illumining the world's concrete images into significant symbols by its gloss, it offered to the intuitive exegete,
Exegete, exegete.
exegete, okay, exegete, its reflex of the eternal mastery.
I believe it's mystery, the eternal mystery, not mastery.
Oh, okay, mystery. Sorry, I was hung on that word, exegete.
So it's illumining these concrete images of the world. And what does it do? It puts them into significant symbols by its gloss. And it offered to the intuitive exegete. Exegete is a person who interprets text, especially scripture.
Yeah, okay.
So it offered to the intuitive exegete its reflex of the eternal mystery. Very, very important.
Ascending and descending twixt life's pole, the serried kingdoms of the graded law plunged from the everlasting into time, then glad of a glory of multitudinous mind and rich with life's adventure and delight, and packed with the beauty of matter's shapes and hues, climbed back from time into undying self, up a golden ladder carrying the soul, tying with diamond threads the spirit's extremes.
What a beautiful line, diamond threads, tying these extremes of the spirit from matter to Satchitananda, up a golden ladder carrying the soul. And this is what Atmagati is seeing and experiencing and living. And so these this multitudinous mind, this glory of this multitudinous mind that is rich with life's adventure and delight, and even packed with the beauty of matter's shapes and hues. Then what? Climbed back from time into undying self. So all of these great things are held in that highest realm, and they're carried by a golden ladder. Carried up a golden ladder, which carries the soul and ties with diamond threads these extremes of the spirit. So nothing ever is lost. In fact, nothing that has lived ever dies. Nothing that has lived ever dies. The smallest bird or insect, when it passes away, will evolve to the next stage of its evolution. So nothing ever really dies, and we have to understand that very clearly. Okay, now we'll continue on a bit in this drop.
Yeah. In this drop from consciousness to consciousness, each leaned on the occult inconscience powers, the fountain of its needed ignorance, archmason of the limits by which it lives.
And the archmason is a master builder.
Okay, master builder. Okay. I was thinking it's like a royal secret or something. Okay,
No, it's a master builder.
master builder. Okay.
So he's now speaking of this drop from consciousness to consciousness, not the rising up, but the drop from consciousness
Consciousness
to
to consciousness.
consciousness. Each is leaning on the inconscient power, on the occult inconscience power. And what is it doing? Well, we have to see that is the fountain of its needed ignorance. Interesting word, because a needed ignorance, it seems that we need an ignorance to be able to progress. We are not perfect. We live in the ignorance.
Mm.
And Sri Aurobindo says, in the life divine, ignorance is the consciousness of being in the successions of time, divided in its knowledge by dwelling in the moment, divided in its conception of self-being by dwelling in the divisions of space and the relations of circumstance, self-prisoned in the multiple working of the unity. It is called the ignorance because it has put behind it the knowledge of unity, and by that very fact is unable to know truly or completely either itself or the world, either the transcendent or the universal reality. So this is a fountain of needed ignorance, and it's the archmason of the limits by which it lives. So now he's going to talk about the soar from consciousness to consciousness. We just heard about the drop from consciousness. Okay, so please continue.
Okay. In this soul from consciousness to consciousness, each lifted tops to that from which it came, origin of all that it had ever been, and home of all that it could still become.
Yeah. If possible, if you could read these lines before our sessions because you're just reading words now.
Right, right. Yeah,
I'm sure you're aware of that.
yeah, yeah.
And
No,
home
I read
of
it,
that,
Narad sir, yesterday, but I couldn't get everything. I was trying to. I wait for that meaning for it to come out, but yeah.
okay, very good. So now we're seeing this soar from consciousness to consciousness, and each lifted tops, in other words, their heights, to
Okay.
that. Now, don't forget that he capitalizes that.
Hmm.
That is the highest,
Highest.
Satchitananda, or the divine, we can say, even the divine, from which it came. And it's the divine because it's the origin of all that it had ever been. And it's the home of all that it could still become.
Mhm.
So beautiful.
Okay. An organ scale of the Eternal's act, mounting to their climax in an endless calm, paces of the many-visaged wonderful,
Visage,
visaged,
visage,
vis-
visage.
visage, paces of the many-visaged wonderful, predestined stadia
Oh,
of
predestined, predestined.
predestined, um, and mediating twixt the heights and deeps, united the veiled, married opposites, and linked creation to the ineffable.
So what we have been reading about now is this soar from consciousness to consciousness, because we just had previously the soar, the drop from consciousness to consciousness, lifting their tops to that, to the divine, the supreme, from which it came. Origin, that's the supreme of all that it had ever been, and home of all that it could still become. Now we have this word, an organ scale. Now, an organ, is a pipe instrument,
Oh,
and
okay.
it often has three different keyboards.
Mm.
Piano only has one,
Oh,
but
okay.
the organ may have three plus the feet. And if you can look at something on YouTube today,
Hmm.
someone playing the organ, it will be an experience for you
Okay.
because one has to be a master of all one's movements.
Hmm.
So
So
this
mother
organ,
used to play the organ, right?
yes,
Oh,
she did, but it was a small little uh, one
keyboard. Okay.
one keyboard. Yeah.
Okay.
So this organ scale
Hmm.
is a scale that goes from the deepest notes to the highest notes.
Hmm.
And that's the organ scale of the Eternal's acts.
Hmm. Okay.
Now, one of the greatest things is when the organ mounts to its climax.
Hmm.
And so here we have mounting to their climax, these in an endless calm. Now, if you can look up Widor, Charles Vidor, Widor. Look him up on YouTube and you'll see one of the great compositions for the organ. I mean, it will shake your body.
Okay. WID.
Dor. And I think it's Charles Vidor.
Oh, okay. Charles Marie Vidor. Okay.
Yes, that's it. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
French
So now,
organist and composer. Okay.
yeah.
Hmm.
So mounting to their climax in an endless calm. Now, what's next? Paces of the many visaged. Many visaged. Visage is like having a face.
Hmm.
It's the same. Wonderful, capital W. Predestined, in other words, appointed beforehand, foreordained, predetermined. Predestined stadia. Now, a stadia is not like a stadium. The stadia is a point in a journey.
Oh, okay. Yesterday, when I was looking at this passage and reading, trying to find the meanings of this word, it said stadia is plural of stadium. So that, that's where I was like getting a little confused. Okay, point in a journey. Okay.
So it's the predestined point in a journey of the evolving way. So it makes sense now.
Yeah, yeah.
It's measures of the stature of the growing soul. They interpreted existence to itself
Mm.
and mediating, of course, we know what a mediator is,
Mhm.
twixt, again, between
Between. Mm.
the heights and deeps, they united the veiled, married opposites and linked creation, now here's the key, and linked creation to the ineffable. The ineffable, I don't think we've talked about that yet. And so in the life divine, there are two very brief statements which I would like to share with you. The absolute is for us the ineffable. Ishvara is Brahman, the reality, self, spirit, revealed as possessor, enjoyer of his own self existence, creator of the universe, and one with it, pantheos, and yet superior to it, the eternal, the infinite, the ineffable, the divine transcendence. How beautiful.
A last high world was seen where all worlds meet. In its summit gleam, where night is not nor sleep, the light began of the eternity supreme.
Of the what?
Trinity supreme.
Okay. Get better glasses.
Yeah.
Bharat Pandit says the Trinity is Sat Chit Ananda, the triple formulation of the reality as existence, consciousness, bliss. So this last high world is seen where all worlds meet. No, not just this world, but all worlds meet.
Hmm.
And in its summit gleam, in other words, in its highest gleam, where there's no night and no sleep, this light of the Trinity supreme began.
All there discovered what it seeks for here.
Very good. Very, very good. Okay, now you've got a lot to read.
Yes. Okay. Life in him learned its huge subconscient rare. The
No,
little
no,
fronts. Uh-huh.
rear. Rear.
Rear. Okay, rear. Like ear, you said rear.
Something in the rear. Something in the rear.
Rear. Rear.
Car was following in my rear.
Rear. Yeah.
Okay, so not rare.
Yeah. Life in him learned its huge subconscient rear. The little fronts unlocked to the unseen vasts.
How about
But
vast? You're
yeah,
saying
I'm in a Toastmasters club which we called VAST, Virginia Advanced Toastmasters Club. So I keep saying this word VAST very often. So I think that's gone in my head. The little fronts unlocked to the unseen vasts. Her gulf stood nude, her far transcendences flamed in transparencies of crowded light. A giant order was discovered here, of which the tassel and extended fringe are the scant stuff of our material lives. This overt universe whose figures hide the secrets merged in superconscient light wrote clear the letters of its glowing code, a map of subtle signs surpassing thought was hung upon a wall of inmost mind, illumining the world's concrete images into significant symbols by its gloss. It offered to the intuitive exegete,
Exegete,
exegete its reflex of the eternal mystery,
reflex, reflex,
its reflex of the eternal mystery, ascending and descending twixt life's poles, the serried kingdom of the graded law, plunged from the everlasting into time, then glad of a glory of multitudinous mind, and rich with life's adventure and delight, and packed with the beauty of matters, shapes, and hues, climbed back from time into undying self, up a golden ladder carrying the soul, tying with diamond threads the spirit's extremes. In this drop from consciousness to consciousness, each leaned on the occult in conscience power, the fountain of its needed ignorance, archmason of the limits by which it lives. In this soar from consciousness to consciousness, each lifted tops to that from which it came, origin of all that it had ever been, and home of all that could still become. An organ scale of the eternal acts, mounting to their climax in an endless calm, basis of the many visaged, wonderful,
visage,
visaged, wonderful, predestined, predestined stadia of the evolving way, measures of the
stature,
of stature of the growing soul, they interpreted existence to itself and mediating twixt the heights and deeps, united the veiled married opposites, and linked creation to the ineffable. A last high world was seen where all worlds meet in its summit gleam, where night is not nor sleep, the light began of the Trinity supreme. All there discovered what it seeks for here.
good try. It could be much better,
Better.
but you've got a lot of new words today,
Yes.
and we run out of time.
I will keep practicing. Thank you so much, Narad sir.
You're
Thanks a
welcome.
lot. Yeah.
We
You
will
have a
get we'll get there together.
sure. Thank you again.
Namaste.
Namaste.